On the news, 9 burns to death as bus explodes on Benin-Ore Expressway. Court reaffirms sack of Ifeanyi Ubah as Anambra Senator. And Ukraine Prime Minister resigns after leaked audio criticizing president. Many thanks for joining us on News Now on TV360. No fewer than 9 people have died when a bus traveling along the Benin-Ore Expressway exploded while in motion. 10 passengers, however, survived the Thursday evening explosion with varying degrees of injuries. The incident was confirmed by the sector commander of the Ogun State Federal Road Safety Corps, Clement Oladile. He says preliminary investigations by the Corps suggest the vehicle, while on transit, suffered some malfunctions which led to the explosion. The 9-seater bus was coming from the eastern part of the country and was heading to Lagos before the accident occurred. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar says Nigeria has purchased military equipment to boost its anti-insurgency war. Abubakar announced this on Friday while briefing State House correspondents after security chiefs in the House held a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. He said the president was briefed on the current security situation in the country and successes recorded in the anti-insurgency war. Abubakar also revealed that President Buhari pledged adequate funding towards the establishment of community policing to better secure Nigeria.
I'm sure you are also familiar with the equipment acquisition by the Nigeria Police Force. I'm sure you are also aware of the policy on community policing that was approved by Mr. President and is going to be funded. And the whole idea is to ensure that Nigeria is secured and Nigerians can go about pursuing their legitimate aspirations without any hindrance. What we want to do here is to reassure Nigerians that the armed forces of Nigeria and indeed security and intelligence agencies in Nigeria are going to continue to work round the clock to ensure that our country is secured and to ensure that nobody undermines the territorial integrity of and national sovereignty of Nigeria. We are going to keep a very close watch on what is going on. And with the equipment that we are getting, definitely the challenges we are facing in some of the theaters of operation, particularly the Northeast, will be addressed adequately. We are doing everything with other sister countries in the Lake Chad Basin, working together to ensure that the terrorists, the Boko Haram terrorism is brought substantially to an end as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has called for more synergy between Nigeria and Egypt in the fight to tackle terrorism and other security threats facing the African continent. The Army Chief made the call while hosting Assem El Saifi, ambassador of Arab Republic of Egypt to Nigeria, who paid him a courtesy visit in Abuja. Buratai said the Nigerian Army has been successfully carrying out operations against Boko Haram targets, Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast and the Lake Chad region, but that they needed more support to address security concerns in other African countries. On his part, El Saifi noted that Egypt was willing to enter into agreements with Nigeria to foster military cooperation.
Privileged to meet you, sir, and to extend the best wishes of all the military officials and the staff in the Egyptian side, and of course to agree on many arenas of cooperation that we can pursue during our stay here for the promotion of military relations and cooperation between two countries.
Nigeria and Egypt have long-standing relations at the diplomatic level. We have exchanges of ambassadors. Equally, militarily, we have exchange of the defense attaches. And we have, for a long time, been enjoying reciprocal training as well as educational, partnership between Nigeria and Egypt, and this is quite encouraging because Egypt is spearheading, it's leading the counter-terrorism, operations within the Sahel region.
And now to judicial matters. A Federal Capital Territory High Court sitting in the Bari area of Abuja has reaffirmed the sack of Senator Ifeanyi Ubah of the Young Progressives Congress Party, YPP. Ubah was the lawmaker representing Anambra South District in the upper chamber of the National Assembly. In a ruling on Friday, Justice Bello Kawu refused to reverse the judgment of the court, which was delivered in December, removing Ubah as a member of the Senate. We have ordered that Obinna Uzo of the People's Democratic Party, who had challenged Ubah's victory in the February 23rd poll, be recognized as the winner of the election. Reacting to the judgments, the national chairman of the YPP, Bishop Amakiri, said his party would appeal the decision of the court. According to him, the court erred in law on the grounds that the party was never served with the court processes. The new governor of Imo State, Senator Hopewell Uzodinma, has appointed Cosmos Iwu, the Director General of his campaign organization, to the position of Secretary to the state government. A former commissioner for information in the state, Nnamdi Obiariri, confirmed the appointment, adding that Uzodinma has also appointed his longtime friend and ally, Nnamdi Ayahe, as his chief of staff. Others appointed are COC Akaos Olisa to the position of Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Imo, and Ogrikin Wachuku as his chief press secretary. Other major moves Uzodinma has made since the Supreme Court declared him governor of Imo on Tuesday include calling for a probe of 3 former governors of the state and ordering all financial institutions where the state funds are maintained not to honor any draft to further notice. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has called on Justice Tanko Mohammed to step down as the Chief Justice of Nigeria and Chairman of the National Judicial Council. This comes 2 days after Tanko chaired a 7-man panel of justices of the Supreme Court, which declared Hope Uzodinma as governor of Imo State. During a press conference on Thursday in Abuja, the national chairman of the PDP, Uche Secondus, alleged that the judgment was a product of manipulation and coup d'etat against the will of the people of Imo. Secondus said Nigerians have lost confidence in Tanko and a Supreme Court under his leadership, and thus asked the CJN to step down to prevent a breakdown of law and order in the country. He also demanded that the decision of the Supreme Court on the election be reviewed and reversed in the interest of justice. The Supreme Court on Tuesday sacked Governor Emeka Ihedioha of Imo State and declared Senator Hopewell Uzodinma as the valid winner of the March 9 governorship election held in the southeastern state. A 7-man panel of the Apex Court, led by Chief Justice Tanko Mohammed, unanimously declared that the votes due to Uzodinma from 388 polling units were unlawfully voided by INEC, and if added to his votes, Uzodinma ought to have been declared the winner of the election. Speaking with TV360 Nigeria on the matter, lawyer Stanley Umaruno backed the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Agents of Mr. Hopper, they gave evidence to the effect that there was collation at the unit level where the voting took place, and the presiding officer announced the respective results. From that unit collation, the next stage is ward collation officer. So there was supposed to be a collation there, but we understand that the collation was moved to the local government collation center, and that the Hope Uzodinma agents were not given access to that collation center at the local government level, and that was where the exclusion was done. And of course, INEC, from the pleadings and of course the grounds of appeal, did not give any verifiable evidence as to what happened to results from those 388 units. It was a question of whether the court will agree that those votes were lawfully excluded or not. And once the court is of the opinion that votes from those 388 units were unlawfully excluded, automatically those will be counted in favor of Mr. Hope, and he will be declared as duly elected and returned.
The lawyer also deferred on the position of the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, on Operation Amotekun, the newly launched security outfit by Southwest governors. Malami had said the outfit runs contrary to the provisions of the Nigerian law, but the lawyers of the opinion that the security of lives and property is crucial in every democracy.
Considering the fact that the AGF has not made pronouncement about Hisbah in the north-west, I think, and there's the civilian JTF in the north-east, where we have the Boko Haram madness. The Lagos State has a neighborhood watch. We all have security in our community. Is the AGF saying that all those bodies are equally illegal? Why single out Omotekun? Is it because it's regionally based? There is no difference between what the Southwest governor have done and what is obtainable in Northeast civilian JTF, and of course the Hisbah law, where you have Hisbah police. We all have individual vigilantes in our communities. Lives and property are sacred, and they must be protected.
An uncompleted 3-story building has collapsed at 12 Alashape Street off Community Road, Agor Palace Way, Okota in Lagos State. The Director General, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, Oluwafemi Okiosaintolu, confirmed this in a statement on Friday. Okiosaintolu said a man is still trapped under the rubble and that an operation is ongoing to rescue him. He stated that the impact of the collapse affected neighboring structures around the scene of the incident. He said that once the recovery of the operation was completed, the remaining parts of the building would be demolished. However, no life was lost and no injury was sustained at the scene of the incident. The Islamic movement in Nigeria has renewed calls for the federal government to release their leader, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky. Secretary of the Academic Forum of the Islamic Movement in Nigeria, Abdullahi Musa, stated this in Abuja, alleging that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari was making moves to assassinate him in detention. Musa's statement comes as the Kaduna State Commissioner for Justice claimed that the fate of Zakzaky rests in the hands of the Kaduna State High Court. The IMN is now calling for the unconditional release of Zakzaky and his wife, Zinat.
We will not be cowed by the deceptive method employed by the Kaduna State government. No amount of media and psychological propaganda will exonerate the federal government from being indicted for the atrocious crimes committed in Zaria during the massacre. The blame game strategy adopted by the United States, Buhari's regime, and the governor El-Rufai indicates that they are planning for the worst. They want to use the state high court as a cover to eliminate Sheikh Zakzaky. On a final note, we call on the Kaduna State government to stop deceiving and fooling the public as well. We have details and full record of all the evil perpetrators of the massacre and unjust persecution of our leader. Whatever happens to our leader, Sheikh Zakzaky, we know the real culprits, and they alone will shoulder the consequences. All we are calling for is the unconditional release of our leader, Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaky, and his wife, Zina Ibrahim.
News Now will be right back after this break. Please stay with us.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other Paper Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Give him his shoes somewhere here. His phone and everything.
Don't do like that today, no.
Thank you. So, bye-bye. Hey, Oga, where do you think you are going? Go.
You never shake body.
Eh?
You never shake body.
Shake body, see?
Eh? You never shake body.
Eh?
You never shake body.
I don't get combo for my body.
You go take for here. Sit down there.
Down. Afama.
What's this man still doing here?
They say I do shake body. I shake body, I shake body. They say I do this. And I say I don't get color.
You are asking for money.
Sorry, ma'am.
Asking for money to bail a suspect is an act of corruption. Both of you will be punished. Corruption is not allowed within the force. Remember,
police is your friend. Giving and taking bribe is wrong.
corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
You're welcome back. Fidelia Aguncha is standing by for news and business. Hello, Fidelia.
Hi, Annetta.
So we see there's not so good news from the MBS today. Please bring us up to speed on that.
Well, Nigeria's inflation increased by 11.98% in December 2019, and that's higher than the 11.85% recorded in November. Now, this is due to the rise in the composite food index, which rose by 14.67% in December. The consumer price index, which measures inflation, witnessed a 0.05% change for the 12-month period which ended in December 2019. Now, this is according to the National Bureau of Statistics, CPI, and the inflation report for December 2019. The report stated that the rise in food index was caused by increases in prices of bread and cereals, meat, fish, oil and fat, potatoes, yam, and other tubers. The decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria to increase loan-to-deposit ratio to 65% is yielding positive results for small business owners. With this result, the Apex Bank announced plans to further increase LDR to 70%. Financial experts have, however, warned against this move, saying some factors need to be put in place before the increase is implemented. Adeshewa Odushoga has more in this report.
Gone are the days when small business owners go through difficult times to finance their company with loan from banks. The latest directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria to retain loan-to-deposit ratio at 65% have brought smiles to the faces of small and medium enterprise owners. One of them is Kehinde Shi of Tuteria Limited, an online platform that links service providers with end users.
Sometime last year, we wanted to expand our business, because where we were was really small, and then we're a growing company, and so we were kind of choked. And so we wanted to get a bigger space, and looking at what we had in the bank, we could not afford to just do that at once. It would have really affected us. So we reached out to our account manager and said, oh, we're aware of this loan to deposit ratio. Let us know how much we can take as a company, and then how we're going to pay back and all of that. And in about 3 days, they got back to us with the amount. Though we didn't need that amount, it was a lot, but we didn't need it. We just needed like a fraction of that amount. And so they credited our account.
With lower interest, Kehinde gives testimony on how much a business has grown since the introduction of this policy.
It has affected us positively, because the morale of the staff, when we had to work, the offices were kind of small, and so they were choked up, and then we had people complain. We had some of our chairs were really good. It was really, coming to work wasn't really fun. It was just, oh, let me just go to work, But we were able to get a bigger space, really decorate it, beautify it, and then, we had these colors around that, like, represent the business and all of that. And then we just noticed that people were happier coming to work. They were willing to stay and work longer hours.
To further improve lending behavior of banks in the real sector, the Apex Bank has projected a further increase of the LDR to 70%. But analysts say other factors need to be considered before the intended increment.
If you have to push the loan to deposit ratio beyond 65%, you have to also adjust a lot of other market ratios, such as the liquidity ratio. You can't have a loan to deposit ratio of 70% and still have a liquidity ratio of 30%. So, given the need for the banks to still maintain strong liquidity, as well as moderate the possibility of creating non-performing loans, it's just appropriate the central bank took the right decision to keep the loan to deposit ratio at 65%.
Traditionally, Nigerian banks are reluctant lenders to small business owners, slowing down the expansion and growth of this sector. To this effect, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it has increased the minimum loan-to-deposit ratio to encourage banks to lend and de-risk the real sector, particularly the SMEs. Adeshawa Odushoga, TV360 Lagos, Nigeria.
We'll now review activities on the stock market after this break. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is closing the week positive despite 2 days of bear drag that cut the market value by over 300 billion naira. But overall, it was a good week for investors as the market capitalization closed at 15.256 trillion naira, which is almost 100 billion naira above the 15.17 trillion with which the market began trading for the week. The all-share index is nearing the 30,000 threshold, as we can see that it's closing at 29,618 basis points. Well, let's now see the equities driving this trend. Renewed interest in top equities across sectors is why the market is rising today. These stocks include MTN Nigeria from the ICT sector, leading the pack of gainers for the second consecutive day. It was quite a good week for MTN, whose value has been increasing since Nigeria's Attorney General withdrew a $2 billion suit actually, against the telecom giant. And Guarantee Trust Bank and Stanbic IBTC are representing the banking sector on the chart, both rising by a combined 2 naira and 15 kobo. On the flip side, we have Unilever, WAPCO, which is Lafarge Africa, UBA, and Union Bank topping the losers chart today. In summary, we can see that the value and volume of shares traded today declined, unlike what we saw yesterday when the market's two biggest equities, which are MTN Nigeria and Dangote Cement, led the gainers chart. So with Dangote out of the way, the volume and value of shares traded today reduced a bit. Volume is at 324 million, while the value is at 3.5 billion. Well, to the foreign scene, we can see that it's all green as well for FTSE, Nikkei, and Dow, all posting gains. FTSE to the tune of 0.86%, the Dow by 0.086%, and Nikkei by 0.45%. All that is from the world of business. It's back to Annette.
Thanks for the updates, Fidelia. Moving on now, Ukraine's Prime Minister Oleksiy Goncharuk has tendered his resignation letter to President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday after an audio of him reportedly criticizing the president was leaked. Writing on his Facebook page, Goncharuk said his decision to resign was to remove any doubts about his respect and trust in the president. He said the audio artificially created an impression that himself and his team do not respect the president. Commenting on the issue, Zelensky's office said it had received the letter of resignation and would consider it. The alleged recording, which emerged this week, came from an informal December meeting between ministers and senior officers from the National Bank. In sports, Premier League chiefs have advised referees to use pitch-side monitors to make a final decision on red cards, according to reports on Friday. Officials in the English top flights were initially believed to have been told the monitors should be used only occasionally when the Premier League brought in VAR this season. No referee has gone to review a decision using the monitors in the Premier League, instead relying on VAR to make the calls. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp and Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola have both welcomed the move. However, Crystal Palace manager Roy Hodgson have criticized it, saying it's the responsibility of the VAR to make the final decisions on the field. That's it on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Annette Felix. Thanks for watching.